The void stares back. The credits are rolling, the mics are recording. Gaze into the void with your hosts, Josh and Joey, as they discuss thoughts and questions surrounding visual, written, and interactive media steeped in cosmic horror.
We haven't done this in a while. How do we intro this show?
Hey.
Hey.
Hello,
What's up?
everyone.
Welcome to The Void Stares Back.
I'm Josh.
I'm Joey. And we just watched a movie called The Endless.
Yes.
So, go watch that if you haven't already. And, because we're about to spoil a lot of it. In fact, all of it.
Yes.
Because we're going to talk about it regardless of whether you've seen it. Alright, there's your warning. We did it. So what do you think?
Not that I had a lot of preconceived notions, but it wasn't really what I expected.
Okay.
So,
In that, do you mean it didn't follow anything that you foresaw occurring, or it surprised you, or because if you say if you didn't have any preconceived,
so going in, I knew the basic premise. It was about two brothers that escaped a UFO cult in their youth, and then received a tape drawing them back in.
Okay,
That's all I knew.
Sure.
This was, I don't know, like, almost like, this sounds weird to say because there's a lot to talk about and digest, but it feels tamer than what I expected going in.
Okay.
Just overall, it was weird to say, more grounded in reality.
Okay.
There's obviously a lot of stuff not grounded in reality at all.
Well, I mean,
but
I think that's not
more.
I don't think that's true. I think the stuff that isn't quote unquote grounded in reality is just iterative of reality. It isn't like so far off the beaten path that it's unrecognizable. It's reality, bent to the rule set of what this universe is implying.
Right.
Which is, a different sort of expectation going into a movie that, we had preconceived notions about being specifically, Lovecraftian, and then when you hear that, you think of all the other things that have done that, and what those have displayed as, being that definition. This is very different from those. Yeah. In a lot of ways. So I could see that being like strange to. Yeah. Hopefully it didn't make you feel like you were waiting for something the whole time that you never got, because there's definitely something about this that could have given you that, where you're like, we're going to have this payoff, or we're going to have this thing that is like normally found in these sorts of films, and it's going to happen, and we're going to feel really, they're either going to do it really great or they're do it bad, but we'll get some kind of payoff for it. And this show doesn't ever do that. Right. Which is like perfect for this show, I think. Yeah. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Yeah. But I could totally see that being like something that's maybe a detractor for the movie, perhaps. I think, for those expecting something. Yeah, I think. Because you won't get it. My desire for that made me feel that way. I don't think the film itself made me feel that way. I was looking at it like kind of from that expectation. Right. Of like, I would want something like that as well. Yeah. There was like a little bit that left me dissatisfied with that regard. Yeah. But not a whole lot. Yeah, I was okay that they didn't just dive headfirst into what they totally could have. Right. Now, do you think that they did that because of the budget thing you mentioned, where it's like a more low budget experience? Maybe. Because like this is basically that kind of experience just without the payoff. Like you could have just had it. Yeah. You could have just had like a spooky dude, a spooky monster man, or, yeah, more visual representation of the things that were occurring. And it wouldn't have changed too much about the experience. Right. I think it would have changed something pretty big, which is why I kind of like this telling or interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good that it didn't in some form, but it did show something.
Yes.
It just, like you say, is a more literal, perhaps, interpretation of what something like that would look like.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, no, I'm not entirely dissatisfied, and it's hard to say if it was due to low budget or not.
Right.
I'm sure that is a factor. I
will say that the CG they did have in this wasn't great.
Yeah, no.
Very much saw all the seams and that's fine. I totally get it. And none of it was so critical that it was unfortunate that it was the case. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I agree.
But yeah, if they did try to go to an extreme and create a creepy monster thing, but use CG, it definitely would have been bad, I think.
Yes, I agree.
Or it would have been the whole budget to make it good. In which case, the whole movie probably has to change in a lot of ways. But I think they did a great job not having a monster.
Yes.
Throughout the whole movie. How do you feel about the movie other than your expectations? Do you like it? Did you not like it?
I enjoyed it, yeah. There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's a good amount. There's something that's really big that I want to work up to that I have feelings about in my head.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know where you want to start. You could just literally pick anywhere.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't really need to follow any sort of structure, I suppose.
I don't know.
Let's talk about the brothers.
Okay.
Did you like the characters or the relationship?
Yeah, I think they were mostly believable.
Yeah, that's basically where I kind of fall as well. I think that the kind of character that was meant to have gone through the things that they had gone through would basically be the way that these actors portrayed them.
Yeah.
But that is inherently characters that are super non-compelling.
Right.
They're underdeveloped socially.
Yes.
And they're just kids. And they're just really boring characters for the most part. And there's a little bit of humor in there, which I liked. But it was all childlike humor.
Yes.
So, but I didn't it didn't feel like it was out of place or anything like that, or the actors did a bad job, or the writing for the characters was particularly bad. It's just the fact that the characters that they needed to be to tell the story aren't interesting people.
Right. Yeah. There's very little embellishment and yeah, I agree.
And at no point does the plot carry them into herodom or anything like that. They don't become anything by the end of it.
No.
Which is also really cool.
Yeah.
Because that could have been a thing where it's I gotta save these people, and and then they do, and they figure it out, and it's sure, you could have done that, but that's also not super real or interesting.
Right.
And they're also logistically up against something they can't possibly combat.
No. Yeah, they have absolutely no agency whatsoever.
Exactly, yeah. So it's basically just if you're looking for a character to follow or be intrigued by and carry you through some story in some way, this is not that kind of a movie.
No.
They're just the vehicle to get you to experience what all these peoples are, including them, are going through.
Yeah.
As opposed to being oh, this is cool, watch this guy develop or go through this thing. So,
no, this is not a character movie at all.
They had they tried to put in a couple moments.
Yeah.
But they were fine enough to be kind of negligible for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
The infighting thing that, the brothers grew to have or whatever. Yeah. But yeah. I thought it was fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Well, so we got the whole time looping
Yeah.
thing, which is a big thing.
And
I know
yeah.
that you care a lot about in general as a subject matter.
Yeah, time.
Yes.
Yeah, time and
Yeah.
stories.
What
and
are
stuff.
your thoughts on the iteration here? And
I think it's fine.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like if you want to take it to that place, time travel, if looked at through a realistic lens, and then proposing interesting scenarios, that generally suggests paradoxes, right? Like it's like, oh, what would it be like if you met yourself? It's like, well, that's a paradox if you didn't meet yourself in the past. You know, if your future self didn't walk up to you 10 years ago, you're not going to walk up to yourself 10 years later.
Yeah.
And, you know, so you can't, like, theoretically make an interesting story without implying that people within a loop know they're in a loop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they know they've met themselves. They know this stuff has occurred.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be, you know, a fourth dimensional being that's imposed this stuff upon their world. So you have to basically say, okay, it's magic, right? Like, you know, it's beyond understanding.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm okay with making constellations like that as long as the material owns it. You know, and often it's the case that it doesn't. That it's just like, this is time travel. It's like,
Right.
this is lazy. That's my response to that, you know? Like, there's a way to do that.
Yeah.
And maintain, you know, some form of realistic approach or whatever. And this does that fine. Like, there's no rules broken by what's happening
Yeah.
in terms of, like, you know, plot hole material where it's like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Why would that be the case? Or whatever, you know. But yeah, I don't know. It's so the looping thing is also, it feels reminiscent of Doctor Who and the Weeping Angels and their whole deal.
Sure. Yeah, I'm vaguely familiar, but I don't know a lot of the lore there.
Basically, they can only move when they're not observed.
Yes.
That's
That
their scary thing.
Yeah.
And they're wicked fast. So
Yeah.
like you'll turn around and the statue will be really close or whatever, and that's the spooky part.
Yeah.
But the intriguing part is actually why they're chasing anybody ever, and their power is that they steal time from people. So your life becomes shorter,
Okay.
and it sends you to some random point in history. If they don't kill you, but to your time they virtually do.
Yeah.
But you're not dead. You just continue to exist
Elsewhere.
in time and space, and
Okay.
they steal some of that time and energy or whatever, and that's their whole deal. This felt a lot like that,
Yeah.
except stronger. You know, not on a one-to-one personal basis with no limitations at all. It's just like it. You know, they mention it in some dialogue where it's like that humans are like their playthings or their pets, or they have some sort of dialogue kind of like that, where it's just they're just toying with us, and that, you know, maybe they are, maybe it's like owning an ant farm, you know, like for us, where it's you know, negligible what the creatures get on with in their daily lives on a micro scale, but you know, on a macro scale, you zoom out and you see them doing these things. But you own them for a selfish reason.
Yes.
You know, and they're in tanks. You know, and you know, so it definitely still has that vibe going through. But it also could be argued that maybe it's like a food source thing, like, you know, there's some sort of generation or a power source or something, because they're clearly killing the people.
Yeah.
And like there's attention paid to sending these people messages, or and they're collecting them, and for some reason they don't go away with the loop because they keep them in that locked room or whatever, and it's been happening forever and whatever. So yeah, there's like a relationship, much maybe like a pet would have, but obviously, you know, you're not killing your pets and bringing them back. The average person isn't, I suppose. But yeah, so that could be, you know, an interesting interpretation of what, like, why it's going on.
Yeah. How do you feel about jumping around.
We're gonna jump around.
Yeah,
We do that,
around,
for
jumping
sure.
around a bit. So for those of you at home, I just let it replay, and
see that.
I just noticed that one of the characters, Aaron, the brother who wants to go back,
Yeah, the younger brother.
he sees just now. He sees circular imagery before they even go back.
Yeah, that was the
you
big
think
payoff
that's-
I was going to lead up to too. Was like
okay.
they talk, and then they show lots of examples of how the creature communicates
Yeah.
and influences and stuff with imagery. And the whole reason for them being there is because they receive a package
Yes.
that no one sent.
Yes.
So it argues that the creature has
Influence.
different agency.
Yeah.
And I think the big conversation point is whether they're out of the loop or not.
Right.
Whether it's just a bigger loop.
I was gonna say that's what I felt by the very end was that they could very well be stuck just in a much larger loop.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting implications of that being potentially real, and this might even have vague relational commentary on artificial intelligence, because this movie illustrated, and which would have been like throwaway shots, like why bother having these things in the movie, but different stages of loop. They had an ancient loop from the guy from like the Civil War era in a tent
Yeah.
that was on what was it, 5 seconds?
Yeah.
5-second loop where he would die over and over. And then, they had the different loops with the crazy guy who hung himself in his shed. That loop was quite quick, it seemed.
Yeah.
It happened every day. He was always walking, and then he was gone.
Yep.
And perhaps his loop was longer than we were allowed to observe, but he was like clearly probing it and just trying to escape. And
Yeah. It seemed shorter than.
but it could also have
rather
just
than
been
long.
short. It could have
Yeah.
been, what his loop actually was.
Yeah.
And then we have the camp's loop, and we have the gun toter's loop, and we also get a shot. Or they go to the mobile home loop,
Yep.
however long that was.
Mm-hmm.
We were there for like 20 seconds, and then we got the shot of all the other domes,
Yeah.
which is also just more fuel to the fire of like how many are out there in the world, and like they escaped, but did they, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say is they get here to this loop, and these other loops are like, they feel to me in an infancy. As if I was learning to program, and I wrote a code that was a calculator, and I could spit in an equation, it would spit me out an answer. And then 20 years later, I write another piece of code, but it's a whole entire video game, and you can interact with a bunch of stuff. And then 20 years later, I write a code that's an AI that is imperceivable from humanity. And these felt like
different
little
stages.
science projects of like, I managed to build a loop, and it's 5 seconds long, 5 Earth seconds long.
Yeah.
And then they built it up and made bigger, longer loops.
Sure.
And perhaps the things that they see as weird, like the triple moons, the birds in circles, are like glitches.
Sure.
Because they get out and they see birds, and they're no longer flying in a circle.
Yeah.
And there's one moon. And like, these feel like iterations in debugging a program.
That's interesting.
If it's arguable that the whole planet is in a Dyson sphere of time loop.
Right. Yeah.
Energy, harvest something or other. Like, the world that we understand as the viewer came from those iterations. You know what I mean? Like, this reality is so believable. It's glitch free. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
That's an interesting take. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah, it just sort of seemed like at the base value, it was definitely like, obviously extremes that it was going to take.
Yes.
And we're implying that the world might be, there's bigger spheres with more influence or whatever. But how did the package get there? Why was it important that he came back to the being?
Right.
Like, that sort of stuff is, I think, some of the bigger questions.
Well, so talking about like how it sends messages, right? So it uses human technology that creates images in some form via either still or film or whatever. The shot where they're at the trailer,
right? Where it looks back at the
back at the projector, projects the moment that just happened, which is an interesting fourth wall break, because like it's our view of what just happened. Reiterating,
but
right?
Well, it wasn't a fourth wall break. It was
not a fourth wall, but
we were watching through the creature's eyes.
Right.
Is the implication.
Yeah,
I think,
right.
Yeah.
And it puts us in a.
But that happens the whole time in the movie.
Right. What I'm getting at though is it shows that, and then within that it shows it again, and then all of a sudden it rips the thing and launches it into a dome.
Well, out of the dome.
Out of that dome, but into another dome.
Sure.
Like
Did it go into another?
Yeah,
I didn't notice it.
Yeah,
I just thought it was like
it flies into another dome.
I was busy looking at all the domes. Because that was the shot where we got to see that there were many.
Right. But it goes into another dome. So it's like it's pulling information from these different loops and dropping them in other loops. Just like, it led him, both of them actually, to the trailer, but it specifically led Dustin, the older brother, to that trailer because he got the image of the trailer. Right,
yeah. It was like a grand scheme thing, right? He got the image of the trailer far before the trailer was even in, like, the plausibility of Justin's path, right?
Yeah.
Like, and Justin only ended up going that way because he lost his map. Is the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And how that happenstance is meant to be interpreted perhaps as control.
Yeah.
Because like Justin dropped it. He left it. And then by the time he realized that he just couldn't go back for it.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know that's like, it was just kind of a weird moment.
It is.
And and then for some reason the compass, and like whether the compass is trustworthy at all, like he said, always follow the compass.
Yeah,
like,
no matter what you see, trust only this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, I liked when they finally started playing with the shimmer, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
When things just pop in and out because they cross thresholds. Mm-hmm. That was nice. That was a nice touch. It was cool looking. They did well with those shots.
Yeah, I agree. How do you feel about not how do you feel, but like what do you think about the rock formations? And do you think that
like the borders?
Yeah, they're almost like signposts.
Yeah, they have like jewels on them too.
Yeah,
little gemstones or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
they've definitely got to be, foreign to this realm, right? Like the creature is defining.
Yes.
The space that, it is a little weird.
Yeah.
And this is obviously reading a little too deeply into things, but it is a little weird that the definition of the spheres or whatever is topographical, but never illustrated enough that the way that they tell the story, it can mean anything, and those can be anywhere. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of them were perfect domes, right? So it implies that it also extends underground, I assume, in a full sphere of influence.
Yeah, that's kind of how I pictured it as well.
Yeah, and so that would mean that the orientation of those posts, those like stone skull-looking things, are in a perfect circle if looked at from an aerial view, right? And like that never really comes up in the context of shots and that sort of thing. They're just there,
Yeah.
And it's just important to show something every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's they're cool, I guess. I don't know. It's just, I think, more for visual storytelling that they exist.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know if you had any. You
Yeah,
felt
I
you had
wasn't
any
sure.
other
They just-
insights or ideas about them besides.
Yeah, they didn't
That
feel
basic
particularly, in a circle ever at any point. They were
Right.
just there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just, it was a little weird. Because, like, on the small scale, if you're really close to something and you see 2 points, let's say,
Yeah.
on a circle, you
Mm-hmm.
just stab a toothpick through points on a circle. If those 2 points are close enough together, you won't be able to tell that you're looking at a circle.
Right.
It'll just look like a line that you draw between them. But as you add more points, it becomes
Yeah.
apparent that it's... But even at whatever scale some of these were at, it wasn't always an apparent arrangement, I guess. Yeah. I also thought there was like some weird behavior with the campers.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're meant to be weird the whole time, but
Right.
like it was just weird how they transitioned into like an understanding of what they're dealing with. And I don't know what motivation there is to like lie about it to the extent
Yeah.
that they seem to, like on the
Right.
individual person basis.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I thought that was a little weird too.
It was a little like I couldn't define the motivation behind it at all. Like his, the leader guy, whatever his name is,
Hal. Yeah.
Hal. And like the story made it seem like he's the only one who knows.
Yeah.
And then the other old guy also knows.
Yeah. Tim. Yeah.
But the others are somehow kept ignorant so that they can, not have to deal with the mental gymnastics that, knowing you're in this loop maybe
Right.
implies.
Yeah.
But then they just like willingly stand in the circle and get eaten and stare up at the sky and do all
Right.
sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a little weird. Oh, okay. So we're watching. This is an interesting thing that we've not done before on the show. We've got the movie on muted in the background. When Justin and Hal brings Justin to his room to look at his equation, there's a map on this wall that has
The dome placements.
domes, and one of them is so big that you can't see the center.
Right.
And one of the smaller ones is assumably theirs.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that he's been able to, within his loops, become aware
Of the other loops and their
of however
locations.
far those
Yeah.
are.
Right. Yeah, he's mapped them in some way.
Yeah, it's weird.
We also have the artist girl who like is
Sees visions is a conduit for.
yeah can see the creature or the entity.
I don't know. Characters are definitely the weirder part of this movie.
Yeah, not the non-Euclidean geometry or time travel or any of that. It's definitely the people are the weirdest part.
Yeah, I just don't understand them.
There's a lot of like nods to very obviously there's nods to Lovecraft in this, but like
Yeah,
they literally mention
his
him
name.
by name, so he exists in this universe as a writer. It's based in our timeline in some fashion. But like, and obviously the quote at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, that's at the beginning of all.
Everything. It's the
Lovecraftian
most
ones.
overused quote, and I mean it's a good quote.
I mean,
You
he's
know.
not got a lot of great ones necessarily. I don't imagine. He wasn't really like a punchline writer.
No, he
He
wasn't.
wrote about the
No.
fucking whaling industry. Who gives a shit about that?
Right, but just anything that's related to Lovecraft that uses a quote by him, it's usually
That's not even
that
in his
one.
writing, is it? I think that's just something he wrote
It was
in a
a-
letter, or
it was
like
a thing-
offhand something.
It was in an interview for a magazine or for some kind of publication called Horror in Weird Fiction or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
I'm terrible. I should actually know that, but I don't remember the exact title.
Nah, it's not
But
important.
that's where he wrote it, or where he spoke it actually. I think,
Right,
or
to an interviewer or however that
or
worked.
wrote it to the But that's where that came from. Yeah, it's not even in one of his stories. So
Yeah.
But beyond the name drop and the quote at the beginning, there's lots of imagery in here that's ripped, I feel like, straight out of stuff that he's done.
Like what?
I mentioned it before we put the movie in. At the back of the box, it shows that shot of the
rock?
sculpture, the rock sculpture that is very Cthulhu shaped, like the idol that the narrator of the story called Cthulhu finds in the beginning of the story.
Yeah, I've not read it.
It describes very much just it's a small carved statue of what eventually we come to know as Cthulhu, sitting there, and like the rock formation has, like in this movie, has the little juts out of the back. It looks like wings, and it's got the two holes that are the eyes on the,
Sure.
a circular head,
Yeah.
and you can kind of make out the way the shadows lay. It looks like it's Cthulhu's arms sitting on his knees, like because he's sitting there,
Sure.
and that's like the
I didn't
iconic
really
statue.
see,
Yeah,
I didn't see that imagery.
and then it cuts to the artist girl's drawing of
the
that, which
statue
is
being, like,
exactly the
torn
drawing of Cthulhu.
I didn't interpret that way either.
Oh, okay.
It just looked like the rock again.
It did, but because it's a line drawing,
Yeah.
you get some of those formations a little bit more vividly.
Yeah,
about
I was
where his
focused
arms
on
and
like
legs and stuff would be.
the disintegration part of the thing
Yes.
as well.
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
She was like it was like the premonition or whatever that all her kind of drawings have become.
Right. So there's that. There's the totem pole that they eventually walk past.
Yeah.
That's the only shot we ever get of anything like that.
Yeah.
And
I think
the
that
top
was
of
there to imply the many eyes that you're getting at.
the tons of eyes in the top
Yeah.
being, which is something that just shows up in every Lovecraft story ever.
For sure.
Um,
I think that was also there to like cement the fact that it's this looping thing has been going on for a very long time, and like
right, and Native
the
Americans
being has been
and-
around,
Yeah, they had erected totem poles in its image or what they thought it was.
Right.
The entity itself, or however it manifests at the end there, and in the girl's drawing, where it's just a circle, like that's seems to be
Cyclone?
it's a cyclone that's like almost like a black hole. It's just like pulling things in and stuff. Is very reminiscent of the Lovecraft's description of Azathoth,
Sure.
which is just the center of the universe, and things exist because it dreams existence into being and controls all space and time. So I don't know if this is supposed to be the creator's interpretation of what that is, or if it's just another nice nod to that.
Yeah, I think like hopefully it's not an interpretation, because Azathoth is supposed to also be like the most complacent of the gods, right?
Yeah, he's called the blind idiot god.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have agency over anything. He's just sleeping at the center of the universe,
Yeah.
and his dreams are existence.
Yeah.
So, that's why I feel like it's more of just a visual nod to Lovecraft's description of him.
Right.
So
Perhaps, yeah.
Anyways, there's a few. I'm sure there's more that I don't know intimately, but those are some of the ones I picked up on in
Sure.
terms of nods to direct Lovecraft stuff.
Yeah, I don't really have enough back knowledge of that sort of thing to have picked up on those, let alone the ones that you were pointing out as specific
Yeah.
visual things. I feel like there was like an overemphasis, like a hand holding that I don't appreciate in movies at the end, where they show all of these innocuous events from the creature's perspective, like catching the baseball to make the magic trick believable, pulling on this rope,
Yeah.
and another thing that I forgot. Oh, the underwater scene.
Yeah.
Where he sees it.
Yeah, and it's looking at him.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. it's weird. Like, I kind of don't love it.
It was,
Not just for the hand holding, but also the implication that it's, like known by the creature that this is the tactics that it's intending to use to lure more people into the loop. Feels very strange.
It does, yeah.
Because right now for the listeners, we're at the silent movie portion where they're doing the rope pulling activity.
Yeah. The struggle,
the creature,
as they called it.
Yeah, the struggle. The creature rejects Justin in this moment and specifically ostracizes him from. What's his brother's name? Aaron.
Yeah.
In that, Aaron isn't made a fool.
Yeah.
And then overcomes it, right?
Yeah.
And, he tries again and does it. And the creature, I guess, interprets Aaron as interested in wanting to become a part of the loop, so it doesn't have to do as much complicated influence on it.
Yeah, this is definitely a major difference between most of Lovecraft mythos deities in that they don't care about us at all, and the things that they do obviously have effect on us, but they don't inherently control what they do and their influence over us.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And the exception being, Totem is the only one that actually has any influence over humans and gets actual joy out of manipulating humans and stuff. So, but a lot of things going on in here do not nod to any kind of stories that Totem is involved in. So,
other than the influence
itself, but
and a lot of this influence is also something that's not. It's not heavy-handed.
No.
So it doesn't really break the experience in the way that it absolutely would.
Yeah.
If it were more heavy-handed, because I think that that's silly.
Right.
Just, at some extent, especially as I'm experiencing the plot chronologically,
Yes.
Like knowing now, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Because they didn't spoil it or didn't force that information down my throat. But looking back, it's very obvious that actually did happen, and the creature does care. And that's maybe an interesting topic as well, is like the implication that whether the elder beings care about us or not is often viewed as something like, of course they don't. They barely know we exist. Sort of, we're like flies to them. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't even enter their radar as anything to be concerned about at all. But it could also be true that they do care, because what we do is we impose what it means for us to care about something onto them.
Right.
So if I care about bumblebees, and when they show up in my life, I change my my behavior, which is true.
Right.
Of bumblebees.
Yes.
It could be that the care that an elder being applies on influencing human life or participating in it or being aware of it is just such a menial task, but totally doable, like breathing and our heartbeat for us. It could be the case that for them to care is also similarly meaningless to the grand scheme of things they're worried about. And that, like for a supercomputer, what is doing simple addition? Whilst processing something massive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
This could still be something that, is interested, or that is, that the elder being is interested in, but it's literally menial task, like walking.
They're barely thinking about it.
Exactly.
But they're just exerting influence.
But within our realm of understanding, it feels like they really care.
Right.
And but that's, I think, an attest to just their power as opposed to their interest.
Yes.
So I think
that's interesting.
That's a different take on perhaps, because all these movies have to stem from there, right? Like you got to be interested in the idea of stumbling upon a Cthulhu mythos where it influences human life, and and whether that is a part of their grand plan or if there is a grand plan. Often doesn't matter, but it could be the case that they're the things that you understand to be reality come to second nature to these smarter beings.
Backing up a little bit to we started to talk about how much all of the members of the quote unquote cult know about what's happening. Like obviously a couple of them certainly do,
right?
And then the others at least know something.
Maybe
not everything, but like putting like that into context, like how do you feel about the overall like feeling or the emotions and the behaviors displayed by the cult as a cult? Because like usually when we get cults in mythos stories or
robe-wearing, dagger-wielding,
and obviously
maniacs.
They don't always have to be that, but there's some sort of usually nefarious purpose or underlying scheme or something, and it doesn't maybe they are dressed in the everyday man's clothing and stuff like these people were, but like there's definitely a plan, and that is definitely not the case here, and everybody's very like, yeah, we're living our lives over and over again and we're happy about it, and like it just feels very strange, but they're clearly like a group of people worshiping something,
right?
It's just a very different take.
For sure. I think it's like an adapted take to, like, they didn't start with the cult when they wrote the story, right? They started with the concept of the loop, probably.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, well, how would a cult exist within this context? And I think that this is kind of how it would be, right?
Yeah.
Like they have to maintain, because this is how cults were in real life. They were like friendly, normal clothes wearing people.
Yeah.
Because they wanted more people to be a part of their cause, and psychopaths, are famous for being scary, but like, I think for me, they're more famous for being charismatic, and like that's something that is displayed heavily in all of the cult members, in different ways, right? They're all very open about the things that are wrong with them.
Yes.
And that sort of thing, and
they're all very candid.
Yeah, which just adds to like some of the creepiness of, their interactions and stuff, and like validating Justin as the main dude we're following. Yeah, who's just been saying like they're crazy people the whole time, and I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think it's fine.
I did too. It was just very when you read the back of the box. Oh, the movie. It's like two brothers return to a UFO death cult. It's like
the viewer also learns that that's a kind of a lie that he.
Yeah, but 2/3 of the way through the movie,
right? Well, yeah, that's one of the payoffs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, but like that was also a part of the thing that I didn't really like absolutely enjoy about it either, right? Those relationship payoffs. I wasn't really. Yeah. It's not why I was watching the movie.
Well, and again, we talked about how, they're already not as interesting characters. So getting that as part of one of the payoffs is going to be less satisfactory. Because we didn't care a lot in the first place. Yeah. Like we're caring more about the events than we are the characters.
Right.
So.
Quick note, we got the movie on, we're still playing it.
Yeah.
We came up to the point where they're shooting bottles. Mm-hmm. That was another moment where the creature made Justin inadequate.
Right.
He couldn't shoot the bottle.
Yeah.
And,
tried multiple times.
And the bottle hit him.
Yeah.
The being or whatever. The being physically stopped the bullet, which is why it had the mushroom impact. Mm-hmm. And then they cut to a shot of an anthill. So
yeah.
They put it in my brain, or I'm just a genius. This is a cool scene as well when he's running and the whole like trailer bumps.
Yeah.
Those sorts of shots in like this whole scene right here.
Yeah.
Gets you wicked excited about seeing some crazy shit.
Yes.
And then the movie spends a lot of time not doing that.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, perhaps a disservice to itself just a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I think it's fine, personally. I was happy that there was no physical creature.
Yeah, no, I agree. It definitely, it certainly hypes it a bit, though. You're just like, oh man, it's gonna start getting crazy now, ramping up,
knocks
and
over a fucking tree in the background.
that
moment for me, when that happened, I didn't think the tree was just gonna fall over. I actually felt a lot like, and this is a movie, a little future spoiler, for one we're gonna watch, of what was that Netflix one called? With the group of guys who go camping and...
Oh, The Ritual.
The Ritual.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that kind of stuff, like things happening in the background of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that reminded me, I thought instead of it falling, it was just going to move.
Oh, sure.
And I was like, oh, is this like a tree monster?
Yeah,
like
right,
in my head, I
right.
was like, why is it a tree moving? But
well, and because they did say, too, earlier in the movie, it was almost when they very first got to the... Or no, it was even before they got there. Justin mentions to his brother, and they're worshiping some kind of thing out there in the woods or whatever. And yeah, then the tree started to move, and I was like, oh, I thought the same thing.
like worshiping a tree god.
Yeah. But that obviously ended up not being the case.
Right.
Which I thought might be, too. This was going to be a movie about Shub-Niggurath, which is Lovecraft's Black Goat of the Woods god. And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting because there's there's not a lot of media around that entity.
Sure.
It shows up in a lot of, there's board games that mention it and stuff. And
right. Occasional video games.
Yeah, perhaps. But there hasn't been any, visual media surrounding that yet. And I thought that would have been an interesting thing, but that was not the case.
Directors and writers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the weaknesses of the movie being in the human relationship aspect aren't massive weaknesses. I enjoyed the movie a lot. But if you can nail that in a movie like this,
yeah,
that's what you need to nail. That is the only part in a Lovecraftian story, as it turns out, for the most part, is just humans interacting with humans.
Yes.
After witnessing something they can't explain, or seeing shit, or dreaming shit, or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. It's it'd have been nice if all of the cylinders were firing.
Yeah, that seems to be the issue, right? With anything that attempts this sort of media is.
I don't know, man.
It's either really good on creature.
We started really strong with
Annihilation.
Annihilation. That hit on every cylinder.
Yes, it did.
That was insane.
Yeah.
Let's watch that instead. It's too late. Can't go back. Just kidding.
This is definitely one of the closer ones to that of the things we've watched so far, I think.
What do you mean?
In terms of how many,
how well it does everything?
Yeah. Yeah. There's the quality overall, I think. It's not.
I don't. True Detective is really good.
Okay. Yeah, you got me there. Yeah.
I don't think True Detective is better than Annihilation, but half of True Detective was really good at doing this.
Yes.
And the other half did the same amount of character work that I didn't care about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the character work was better in True Detective. It just happened to be inconsequential to anything supernatural.
Right.
Even though there were parts about it steeped in the supernatural, where things were, it was spilling over and affecting a lot of their lives in that.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't matter. It just was a thing that we got to witness happen. Paint dries, I know that happens, but I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
It was kind of something that wasn't adding to the story. It was just tangential.
Speaking of that, I'm going through that now, showing my sister that.
Right.
I'm paying attention to
those scenes,
to the possibility that they're in multiple circles, because things are in different spots, right? We talked about that theory.
Right. The stick things are in different... Yeah.
I've been trying to pay attention,
okay.
So I'll let you know my findings. That
ramps up later, right?
Yeah, I'll let you know my findings after I've...
That's hot.
Yeah.
Cool. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
For the answer on whether we were totally right or totally wrong.
What else?
What did you want out of this movie that it didn't have, maybe? Like if money wasn't enough, you know.
At very first, I don't know if this is really an answer to your question, but your question sparked a comment. So
Yeah, sure.
at very, very first, when the camera goes on and stuff, I was less than satisfied immediately with the camera quality.
Yeah, there was. I feel like it's. I noticed that as well.
And
Because it's not in every shot.
Exactly. And then as the movie kept going, I got less and less concerned with it.
So I took it maybe as, you know, I don't know if it was used as a tool, because it was occasionally in parts that didn't feel like it needed that emphasis, but it was always jarring.
Yes.
Which is good if used as a tool. You know?
Right.
It was really good in one moment, and I'll try to remember what that one was, but it also sort of could be interpreted as a lazy post-edit fix. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Even everything out, if perhaps there are some good quality shots and some non-ideal shots, this kind of effect that seems to be applied as like a motion blur, because the still shots are fine all the time when the camera does very little movement. But this is like a movie made entirely on a handy cam, and they've got a couple of like establishing shots on cranes and stuff like that probably. But for the most part, all of this interpersonal stuff is like a human holding a camera.
Yes.
And so that's inherently a little shaky, but then when you apply that motion blur effect to the whole thing, you start to establish a norm, right?
Yes.
And I think that doesn't happen on accident.
No.
To the extent that it seems to have.
Right. No, I agree.
I don't think it's like just exclusively like shitty camera, let's go.
Yeah.
Because like clearly they paid humans to act in a movie, and I could shoot better quality shots on just a DSLR. So like it feels pretty intentionally done.
Yes.
But for what purpose, I don't know.
Right, and that's what I think this will bother me at the, like maybe a third of the way through. I'm like, I don't know why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, but then I became very engaged in what was happening, so I just forgot about it.
There was a moment where I actively felt like uneased by it. And it was one of the spinning shots that they had with forest imagery.
Yeah, a couple of those were really good.
Yeah, they did the spinning shots, and then the trees are impossible to focus on anything, and I'm like engaged and not looking away. Because this phenomena occurs in the real world, right? If you're in a car, for example, and you're a passenger and you're just watching nearby foliage fly by at 50 miles an hour, you can't, your eyes can't find a point of focus, right? So you look further to things moving slower.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your eyes are just like, and like darting back and forth trying to make it happen. When things are purposefully in movies and videos and films and things, if they're purposefully out of focus, that hurts to look at. That's why they don't do it forever. But sometimes some movies do it for a really long time, or a large portion of the screen is out of focus, and that's like really jarring to the human body. And in this case, that scene was just so long, and it was like spinning, and then it like transitioned to a different visual scene, but then it did it wasn't a Hitchcock pull, but it was like a camera twist zoom thing, but with all of the extra blur that it had, I was just like, okay, are we done with the shot? Like, I was like, it put me, not at ease at all, and I thought it was good, and like the music was also, playing into those feelings, but it isn't necessarily an ideal experience. Like, I'd rather just, like, you don't gotta physically bridge the gap for me. I'm already in. Yeah. I don't need to be made to be physically ill on top of my brain being invested into your universe. But I know that can be important for some people. But that was the only time I felt it used as a tool.
Sure. Okay.
The rest of it was just everywhere.
Yeah. Going back to your question, I
forgot my question. What was it?
Was there anything in the movie or was there anything not in the movie that I wished
sure.
there?
Yeah, additions. Or alterations.
I don't know that I can say afterwards now, like in retrospect, that there really is something. I think it, like at the very end, like the moment the credits rolled, I was like, I did kind of want that, like a better shot of the thing, whatever it was, or if not that, a little bit more of like, because we kept getting the girls' drawings.
Yeah.
I wanted maybe some kind of like, besides the totem pole, another referential
image
thing that gave us just a little bit more of the lore of whatever's been going on here.
Sure.
Besides what we're seeing in the moment,
Yeah, plus all we really got as far as lore was concerned was this isn't an isolated event, and it, happens at different
speeds.
Yeah, speeds, and like the loops are different lengths and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So the rules aren't consistent to this sphere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I
think just more information on it.
Yeah.
Is really what I would want. And
yeah, I don't.
But the mystery obviously also serves the purposes of the film very, very well.
Right.
Like I'm with you that now looking back, like I'm fine not having seen anything, other than the little bit that we got of it, or knowing even that much, because it's that mystery is what drives a lot of Lovecraftian storytelling.
Yeah, just ask more questions than it answers.
Yeah. But me wanting all the answers, I just like the lore behind all of that stuff.
Right.
That's why I'm here. So.
Yeah. I also look at these things that are like inspired by that, or doing their own take or whatever it is, as being supplemental as opposed to structurally supporting the thing. Like you go to Lovecraft stories to get just hard facts. Like it just tells you what those things are. You get to see what they saw and how they would describe it in their words as it's written. And in some cases, you also get this where there's nothing.
Yeah.
But like often is the case, you at least get to see a thing do a thing, even if that thing is invisible.
Yes.
Like in the Dunwich Horror, where most of it's invisible. Then you get to see it for a little bit through a telescope at the end of the story, and he describes what he's seeing, and it's being described through like human language and like
which is
described as things that exist in the world, which is just true to how it came to be, but more so than because the Dunwich Horror is of Earth. It isn't.
Yes.
It's a little bit different from some of the other monsters and some of the other stories, but yeah, there's like different payoff in some of those other Lovecraftian stories that are like considered to be a part of the canon. And this, Annihilation and this sort of thing, they're like just kind of tangential. Yeah. And are establishing their own thing, I guess. And some of them aren't establishing their own thing; they're just, using that vibe or whatever. And like, I don't know if you said this about this movie, that it was more akin to the vibe of Lovecraft over the content of Lovecraft. Yeah, it was supposed. I don't think I agree with that anymore. I haven't watched it. No, I think it was pretty much not too different. Like the time thing is the interesting difference, right? Yeah. Other than that, it feels pretty spot on. Like as a this is not a Lovecraftian like vibe. This is just straight up monsters and shit. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like
sure. Well, I guess what I meant by that is that it feeds you cosmic horror. Sure. That's I also didn't really get that as much as I would want it to, perhaps. Yeah, as opposed to being a direct adaptation or loose adaptation of one of Lovecraft's stories, like Annihilation could be argued as a loose adaptation of The Color Out of Space. Yeah. This is not really any of those things. It's just but it is very much cosmic horror, and deals with entities that are beyond human comprehension. Sure. I also think that they unfortunately ruined that with like the hand-holding I talked about, right? Sure. Showing too much of the monster that they showed almost nothing of. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like basically making it a character in this is kind of a misstep in delivering, with that intent or whatever.
because I think it needs to not be a character for us,
Yeah.
like it's not a character for them. If it's going to be something beyond,
Right.
Yeah. reality as we understand
I don't
it.
disagree with that at all.
Just fucking
Yeah.
throwing ropes and shit, and then just like disintegrating people like Thanos or whatever in the middle of the.
I thought, again, we still have the movie running. I thought the moment where they're in the boat and he jumps in, that was going to start his loop, and he's going to be stuck in water.
Oh no!
Yeah, I don't know why, because like they gave the pause long enough, right? And I was like, I wonder if this is like his answer was supposed to be at the bottom of the lake, right? That's what he does, and
Yeah, there's an interesting moment in this scene.
yeah,
So he dives under the water by the buoy to get his answer or whatever to his first message, which is just another message.
yeah,
And this message exists as a piece of manipulation to break the two apart.
yeah,
Like that's its whole purpose. But even outside of that, talking about the scene, I liked the scene.
yeah,
It pulls up away, the
Yeah.
shot out, up and out from the boat as they paddle away, and you see a giant shockwave
yeah,
that the boat did not cause. A ripple
Yeah.
in the water
right,
of presumably the creature swimming off, because
Yeah.
this is still in the realm of misleading us as to what it is that
Yeah.
we're dealing with. But additionally, you get the shot of this giant chasm.
mm-hmm.
The shape that the thing has has taken.
Yeah.
The void of
yeah,
the circle. And at the end, in the end credits, they say the title of the movie again and show you Rorschach blotches
yeah,
and stuff like that, which is interesting, I suppose. I don't know. There's a lot of commentary to be had on that.
I think they're more like fractals, right? Like they're mirror images of
Sure,
yeah,
mathematical repetition.
which just reiterates the
Sure.
shimmer and the mirroring of the universe around these folks and stuff.
Yeah, I was curious about maybe whether or not there was an implication about that location
Oh,
as being an important place,
sure.
because it's out of the reach of normal human interaction. He swims to the bottom to find a thing. Directly experiences the monster man.
Yeah.
But it appears from the aerial shot of the lake as like a chasm, more so than a design in algae or seaweed or something. I don't know, but
Okay, so you read it as a whole. I
it
guess
sort of looked like it. I didn't really think of it that way because he clearly swam to the bottom of it.
yeah.
So I didn't think it was just like this giant void gate.
Yeah.
But it could have been interpreted as perhaps a crater. Implying alien.
Sure.
Because that was already brought up in the movie. The alien worshippers,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And I was like, okay, well, they're clearly like seeing some crazy shit up to the, by this point, they've seen a bunch of crazy shit happen. And then he goes to the lake and he actually listens to the vision and it takes him to the source. That sort of a vibe was
Yeah.
what I was thinking. But I was also curious if there was any other evidenced information that's perhaps the center of their dome.
Oh,
Like if we could get the shot of that map he's got,
right.
if the dot at the center of each of the domes is like the lake,
Yeah.
that could be interesting. But it didn't really matter for the story.
Right.
That's just a thought I had when I saw that.
That would be interesting to know.
I don't think it changes a whole lot about what's going on.
I don't
but-
think it does either, but it's cool to think about.
How do you feel about the visual representation of the shimmer and the void and that whole thing, like being like the like polyhedral dome shaped things that shimmer when we're able to see them?
I mean, I think they're fine. I think it's fine. I think on a very like minor level, I was dissatisfied seeing their definition.
Well, I think it was important when we did see their definition because we were implicitly being told by the movie that we were looking through the eyes of the being.
Yeah.
Like in that
Sure.
moment, it can see the domes because
Yeah, it knows where everything is or
Yeah.
what it's doing. Yeah.
and that was more. It wasn't like now you get to see because you've earned it. You've made it this far in the movie. Here you go. It didn't really feel like it was that because they were talking about like how they had to do drugs to see it
Yeah.
and that whole thing, and that's a whole other thing. I don't know what that's all about either because like there's some interesting implications about that trailer where the guy was making the flower drugs and how they've made it to the camp from that location
Yeah.
because they're not making it here.
Right.
It doesn't appear. They just have it in bags because they bought it with their money, I assume,
Yeah.
in their weird little commune
Yeah.
thing. And how when we do get to see that location where they're making the drugs, there's nobody there.
Right.
Just curious.
Yeah. I don't know that I have any insight on that, but
Well, I was kind of thinking of it in terms of like, yeah, you can fucking smash up a flower and smoke that shit, but in the real world, most flowers don't do jack all when you do that,
right.
you know? And so it's meant to be like a mysterious plant that lets you see.
Yeah.
And it's like, perhaps that is something that the monster is supplying
Yeah.
in some, facet.
Yeah. To
And-
what
and-
purpose, I wonder?
Further control. It's like the Kool-Aid reference, right? Like,
Sure.
like, take this. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to
see the
think
beyond.
of the entity as being the leader
Of the cult.
of the cult, right? Like, because it
Sure.
has all this influence and stuff, or I mean, implied influence, and then now you're bringing up like just the notion that maybe it's making these
Yeah.
drugs that allow these people to see the borders and stuff, and like, why would it do that? It's like
to show that it has power. And
yeah, and it's controlling all these people.
because sometime between
And-
the 10 years that Justin and Aaron
Yeah,
were gone, they became aware they couldn't cross that threshold because none of them try it
exactly.
because it kills them
Yeah,
or whatever happens. Actually, we don't know. Because
yeah,
Crazy man just walks out in the middle of their conversation, but doesn't immediately come back. Takes him a sec.
yeah,
So maybe he did make it out, and then the monster's like, "Fuck you doing?" and then kills it. And then he comes back, right? Because that seemed to happen. You saw him in the camp or near the camp,
yeah,
presumably out of the bounds during one of Justin's runs, wherever
Yeah.
because he's free to go anywhere,
yeah,
as he's not bound to these loops just yet or whatever. And then he dies in the bushes around the corner, or just a shoe left
Yep.
with his blood on it, and like
yeah.
stuff like that happens.
Then literally says it'll rip you right out of your shoes.
Yeah, yeah, and like that stuff, occurred or whatever, and so yeah, it is interesting as to say like what agency they have past the boundaries,
yeah,
because none of the campers ever try to cross theirs.
mm-hmm.
Often go just up to it and not past it. Like, what's her face waves Aaron goodbye.
Yeah. We're clearly meant to believe like she saw him walk through it at a distance, came up, kind of looked around, and was like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and just gives a wave, and so she knows it's there, but doesn't
Right.
have a care to even follow him.
Yeah, because she'll die.
Yeah, she'd rather be sucked up into space to die than walk through a wall.
I guess so.
Yeah,
Didn't even get sucked up into space. Just got obliterated where she stood.
Yeah,
Clothes were left. I was going to say a thing about the domes.
Mm.
What was it? Shoot. Dang it. I don't remember.
I don't know. You asked me how I felt about seeing them.
I did. So maybe this is credence to the idea that there's a big dome that's more sophisticated, encompassing the Earth. But this phenomenon, being isolated to this region of the world, is not something the rest of the world wouldn't notice.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Why don't they? We got a shot of like 14 plus domes of varying sizes, and then a massive dome on his map
Yeah.
that, we didn't really get a great shot of necessarily of what it, we don't have direct association with what he's got mapped out and what we saw in that shot and that sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It's curious that this phenomenon is like, unknown to the outside world in any.
Well, especially
those people didn't age. Like that's the whole thing, right?
Right, and especially after Justin, slanders them to the public.
Yeah.
You'd think that there'd be people that came to visit this supposed death cult, and like reporters or police or anybody that he, because he went on the news to talk about it.
Yeah, and also it's curious the implication of any like form of timing. Because we didn't really talk about that, but the timing that they leave the cult. How are they able to? At that time, they're clearly not stuck in the loop.
Yeah.
Or the monsters let them leave.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Still unclear if that's the case. And then send something to bring them back.
Yeah.
But they were never trapped in any death claws yet.
Right.
Clearly, the implication that the monster wants them back is indication that it was there when they were there.
Right. Yeah, it knows that they left.
Assumably,
yeah,
it had control then.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be that it only knows that they left because it hadn't started this cycle yet. You know what I mean? Like, they left instead of going on the ascension that the videotape talked about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which was the first death starting the cycle.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that a monster cares to have them back. Like, I don't understand that motivations,
Yeah, I don't either. But we're not meant to know Lovecraftian deities.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the elder ones are a mystery to us,
Is that
Joey.
it?
Yeah.
That must be it. I must be a dumb.
Sometimes the mystery is better, Joey.
I can't disagree with that.
But
right now, I think that mystery is pretty stupid.
yeah. No, it is. You raise a very interesting point. I had a thought. I lost it. I don't know. It'll come back to me.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I thought that the gun-toting drug addict was very pleasant.
Yes.
What a great dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Best character in the story.
Yeah.
No, don't bother getting a chair for our guest.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Great line.
Mm-hmm. No, there's nothing weird going on. Just my friend, he's making me clean and sober. Which is really funny that they say that, and then he has a beer in his hand later in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was like...
They were obviously about
doing crack and meth and stuff.
Yeah, and they were...
As opposed to alcohol, I think.
Yes, but, I mean, then I think that it was also, like, they were about to kill themselves again to try and get out.
Right.
And, yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, I don't know how... It really makes you wonder where, like, what happened to anybody that... Because I feel like people had to have come to visit after the public knowledge, right? And, like, and maybe we just don't see those people. We just don't get that...
Yeah, we don't have that part of the story.
Yeah, we don't have that window, right? There's probably pockets of other people out in this area that are just now stuck, or or they don't get to see when they come. The monster doesn't let, for whatever reason, it's picked these particular pockets of people to experience its manifestations or whatever. Or the people come visit and they're just not there long enough to really notice, or they get like a weird vibe but they don't see anything in particular just by happenstance and they leave.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, based on the way the cult was going on, it wouldn't be illegal, per se, for them to, like...
Yeah, they couldn't find anything.
The claims would be unsubstantiated by the boys or whatever.
Yeah. But...
Just now, we're watching the scene where the guy who kept walking was at his little shack in the woods, and he walks through the shimmer and vanishes, and then Justin's confused, and then he pops back out of his shed again.
Right.
In that scene, Justin passes the threshold.
Does he?
Yeah, because before he jumps out, he's staring at the totem.
Right.
And then he flies back in fear and shock against the fence.
Oh.
And you see the totem between them.
Right.
But he can still see him.
That's interesting.
Because he's talking to him when he comes back out the...
So that implies that certain borders affect people and other ones don't. Well, or at this time too, though. Well, no, because he crossed the threshold earlier. We saw him with the snake, right? He sees the snake, backs up a couple feet.
Yeah, he backs up and the snake goes away.
Yeah.
Well, it did. I don't know that it did that because of it wasn't the barrier, because that doesn't affect Justin. That was just an illusion that I think the beast was using to keep him headed on that path.
Do you think so? Because it is...
Same with the mongoose or the mountain lion. I don't think the snake and the mongoose are real. It wasn't just a matter of him becoming invisible.
I disagree. I think they are exactly like the girl that waves to Aaron. They're right. Vanish. They can't see him because he's crossed a barrier. Because it is very... There's the shot where he backs up from the snake. It cuts very intentionally to a side view where he crosses across the thing.
I noticed it. I just interpreted it as the beast wanting him to be headed in that direction or in that bubble or whatever. You know what I mean? Because what I was going to say is leading up to those moments is when he's told not to trust... Or no, afterwards, he's told not to trust anything he sees.
Yeah.
Or not to, be afraid or deviate. And rattlesnakes and mountain lions are very specifically like humans are afraid of these things.
Yeah.
And they felt like tools that this beast was manifesting.
That's interesting.
But they could be real. That there's credence to that. But like I said, it doesn't affect them at certain... I don't know, it's weird because they're...
Yeah.
It does work when Aaron shows up at the trailer because he just pops into that bubble.
Right.
And is yelling for Justin, and he can't hear him until he crosses the threshold as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was just kind of weird because the moments that they had those interactions, except for the one at the trailer, was it felt like it was between bubbles.
Yeah.
Like in the trails between these major epicenters of activity or whatever. But yeah, I could see that being just him actually have been seeing the animals that were actually real. It just felt like it showed up and he could still see it, which wasn't true for Aaron and the girl.
Right.
They couldn't see each other.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we watch it lose interest and leave.
Yeah.
We also watch Justin be less afraid of it.
Yeah.
Which is after he's told not to trust what he sees.
Right.
I don't know. It's definitely weird. Some weird logic gaps there, or maybe not, not great conveyance on the concept.
Or we're just dumb.
Or we're really dumb. I remember what I was going to say. It was to do with the crazy guy in the shack and the gun tote crew. So the crazy guy in the shack asks for a gun so he can kill himself.
Yeah.
Hoping that that'll work.
Yeah.
And it just has him come back. And there's a lot of talk of going on your own terms and that sort of thing from those two groups. And in the end, the gun toters do go by their own terms. They set their place on fire. And the moment they die, they start their loop over. And, and in that scene, Justin can see into the circle as well.
Right.
So he can see across that barrier.
Yeah.
I don't know, who knows the rules? He can see it. And my question was, about the timing. So the counselor's the cult dome is like worshiping it and accepting that it occurs. And the result of that is that it leads to this cataclysmic event where it sucks up everything.
Yeah.
That didn't happen to everybody else because they're not letting their cycle run through.
Sure, they're
because like when does that happen? When is
all the process?
Yeah, when does that timing occur for them? You know what I mean? Like
right.
When does their official loop end?
Well, I mean,
they don't get that huge event where it sucks up all manner of everything. It was eating propane tanks and like
that. Well, I was going to say, aren't we just led to believe that they're included in that major event? Because that was huge. That covers that whole area.
Yeah, but that's like their dome, though, right? Like, maybe it is, but like it would have been bigger and in other areas if all the domes were experiencing everything.
I'm wondering if those were all like that. It's above all the domes, and all the domes are back there in the rearview mirror.
Maybe
where it's happening. That's how I interpreted it.
Sure. I was confused about it because, like I say, the others are like prematurely ending their time loops, and that is what I perceive to be the natural end of that loop.
Sure.
That's when it is starting the loop over. Not them.
I mean, you're probably not. I don't think you're wrong. I'm just. I mean,
it could have just been like.
I wonder if it's a little bit of both. Like they get to stop their time loops whenever they want by killing themselves,
and then they react to some cataclysm if they're in the middle of their loop when it happens.
Yeah.
Sure. Because they didn't show us.
No. What did they say the little ornaments were for? The circle within a circle.
Yeah, I forgot. They talked about the light refraction thing a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was really early that they talked about those.
Mm-hmm. And it was like one really line, and that was, I didn't know if they were like, almost like how loggers mark trees or whatever, or like, the Forest Service might mark trees for a path.
Sure.
In the woods. Like if they're...
Because they were always at the border.
Yes.
Of the...
I'm wondering if they were to line a path, because there's so many of those things around, and you can lose your place.
Yeah, I think it's just to let the campers know that they're at the border.
Yeah.
If it's not immediately obvious, perhaps.
Right.
They may be marked it themselves.
Yeah. There's a projector screen in this room.
There is.
That's interesting.
Yeah, two projector references.
Yeah. There's also a drawing on a pad behind the guy on the bed. If we'll get another shot. Now we may not get another shot. I don't know.
No, we get a shot of him again.
Yeah. I just don't know from what angle. That's
sure. Nice little mask.
Yeah, of some kind or something. I really appreciate the attention to detail here. This has nothing to do with our general conversation, but the roll of toilet paper.
Sure.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, he's locked there.
Yep.
But it's a friendly locking.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I was like, okay, that's nice. They pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Oh, there was another... See if it cuts back to it. The camera shot in the back, or the computer shot from right there. You see that in the back?
Oh.
It's like a little long man graffiti looking thing.
Yeah.
Oh, he's cute.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's just like faces drawn on the interiors of these walls.
Yeah, I feel like I kept trying to pay attention as much as I could, but I feel like there's probably a lot of little detail stuff like that strewn throughout.
Probably. There's another face there.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird little graffiti things.
I wonder how much that shows up elsewhere. If at all. Or if it's exclusive to this.
I wish we got to see this scene. So we're watching them play the hard drive that they found on their own at the gun-toting place on the laptop.
Yeah. Yep.
And they watch some scene of someone dying.
It's fairly brutally, I assume.
Yeah, you hear
by the sound.
somebody get squished.
Yeah.
but they make no reference to who they're seeing. But they do. What's his name? The other guy? Him? Nick? Mike.
Yeah.
Mike does say we're unsure of whether we're seeing our past or our future. So it could be both of them.
That's what I interpreted it as too, was that one of them was killing the other one.
Oh. I interpreted it as them dying to the creature in the way that they died, that the campers died in the circle.
Oh.
Because it was a squish.
Right,
also.
but there wasn't. Oh, sure, but there was like a yell and like what sounded like beating. To me.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I wasn't really.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and then the final sound you hear is like the. Yeah.
Yeah.
Squishy. But maybe you could be right. I don't know.
Well, I was saying that possibility could be a cue to your point about the cataclysm affecting these domes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the beast is saying you're actively trying to do a bunch of shit to stop me, but you can't.
You can't.
This is what's going to happen. That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like since we watched or we're led through this story from the perspective of Justin here, from the whole movie, and occasionally from the perspective of Aaron.
Yeah.
It could be also that the pace that time occurs within the realm of this story is only subject to follow the rules and expectations of human understanding when Justin's there. So these loops don't have to be moving at the speed of time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it could be inconsequential that they're happening at any speed at all until someone's observing them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so, like, to the beast, it doesn't matter that you reset yourself, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if it's eternal.
Right.
So.
Yeah. We're watching the scene where Aaron discovers the ancient gramophone music listener running into a corner of the tent and exploding. It's also interesting, I guess we could talk a sec about the logic of the universe as well, because it's interesting that your reiterations are your memories carry.
Yes. You also don't seem to age. The moment you're caught in the loop, that's the age that you stay at.
Yeah, you age
Right.
during the loop,
Yeah.
and these are just not long enough to perceive any physical change.
But the fact that you carry all prior knowledge, so you know you're in a loop and you know
purgatory.
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, really quick, I don't know if it means anything yet, but the tent scene there that I just described, he says something important, I think.
I think so too. I didn't quite catch it fully.
He says you have to leave, but I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the dialogue word for
He's
word.
like, don't stay
here. Specifically in this loop is what I interpreted that to be.
Okay.
Because it'll know.
Oh.
It'll come for you.
Yeah.
As if that particular loop is really important to it or something. And it could have been interpreted as just leave this place. It's a bad place. You should not be here.
Right.
But he's the only one to have said that in that specificity.
Yeah, right. He also looks like garbage.
Yeah,
like,
he's been there the longest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Just, to maybe add more credence to my theory that that's like the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so short.
Yeah. I don't know. It's cool. I like the implications here.
Yeah, it's a really interesting film.
Should have been called Looper. That's my first criticism.
Oh, man.
Where's Bruce Willis at?
Right. I want some Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah,
it's a really neat film. One other thing that would have been cool to have is them actually doing something like that is shown on the cover of the movie.
Staring into some crazy abyss.
Yeah, this is like spiraling, like time spiraling, and
yeah,
them walking through it.
That's a really funny scene right there. So we're watching the guy pour gasoline onto his home before he lights it.
Yeah.
In defiance of his new god.
Yeah.
And it just seems really weird and arbitrary to throw the tank out of the house that you're planning to set on fire. He removes the tank of gas after he's emptied it and just chucks it. I'm like, why do you care where that is?
Right, because the whole thing resets. It's not like
just leave it wherever.
Yeah, because if it were to be destroyed in the fire, the home would be gone. Yeah,
it's just a funny little detail.
It is. Yeah.
I have a random note that you probably won't understand, and that maybe somebody out in the world will understand. But that this guy, the actor who plays Justin, looks exactly like a YouTuber called Seed Anners.
Okay.
So he looks so much like him.
Interesting.
It's been bothering me.
Huh.
A little bit throughout the whole thing.
I can't say I'm familiar, so.
He looks like that guy right there. Yeah. You're pretty familiar. He looks like that.
Okay. All right.
He's obviously got some different features, but
yeah.
He it's just been really reminiscent of him the whole time, aside from personality-wise. And it's just been at the back of my head. Yeah, I didn't really they clearly didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I didn't really care about that relationship between Mike and Jen.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be the saddest thing that has happened in this movie, I think.
Yeah.
Where they're both really close to each other, but both don't know if they're okay.
Right.
And it has an interesting implication about Jen's dialogue, though, because she says that, she came here to find her husband.
Yeah.
And what's his face?
Mike?
No. Cult leader dude.
Hal.
Hal says that he'll help her.
Yeah.
And she has an interaction with Justin or whatever when they're finding that out for the first time, and she says she's really elusive about how long they've been searching.
Yeah.
And she's it's complicated and doesn't want to talk about it after he asks.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that she's fully aware
of what's going on,
of where he is.
Yeah.
But can't do anything about it.
And
Mike appears to be unaware.
Yeah.
That she's nearby.
That's interesting. And even more sad.
Right. That's why I was saying. I was that's supposed to be really sad, but I didn't really.
Yeah.
I was so offhanded, those two interactions that
Right.
Didn't really give you any time to care.
Yeah. I wonder who Byron Castle is.
It's weird. They made a very implicit point to have written out that note in calligraphy, basically.
Yeah.
By way of dip pen or what you call it? Fountain pen. And it leads you to believe that it's ancient.
Yeah.
Right? But it's attached to a modern trailer.
Yes.
Quote unquote, relatively modern trailer.
On bleach white paper.
Right. And it's just sort of weird. Here, I'm going to get to see this thing you're talking about.
You boop. Disappears right into that dome.
Sure.
So whoever's down there got their projector message of some kind.
Is that just how it's communicating? It's taking all these tools from
other places,
other domes to send Polaroids and shit?
Well, that's what I was wondering, because they get the image of the trailer from the point of view that Justin first walks into that border.
What?
Where Justin walks into the border of where the trailer is, that camera shot.
Oh, it's an image trailer from his perspective.
It's and it's the same image that he physically gets from the being.
Yeah, different time and place.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I just thought that it's interesting to think about that it's taking moments from future interactions
Sure.
and sending them back through time.
Yeah, I mean,
to
it's...
lead, but like, and from different parts within the same cluster of domes, to just like move people around like chess pawns or something. Like it's
Sure.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interest. Let's talk about that too. So yeah, to that point, really quick. You know, a four-dimensional being as this thing would have to be, right? At least,
Yeah.
on the implication that perhaps they have some agency or control over time itself as we perceive it, could do stuff like that, right? Like it could just,
Yeah.
you know, like Dr. Manhattan, it can see the future and it just knows that these things will follow
Yes.
that path as I've seen it laid
Yeah.
out. And perhaps can manipulate that information and change the course of history and whatever else. So yeah, that didn't feel out of place or unreasonable, that it knew where he would walk in.
Right.
And just said, here is the thing, here's your motivation to go do that.
Yeah.
So that's the paradox stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
At the top. But really quickly, I think that scene with the projector and the double turn that we get to see could mean one of two things. First, it had a problem with experiencing the visual telephoto representation of infinity, of when you point a camera at its own feed.
Yeah.
You know, that concept where it just keeps seeing itself
Mm-hmm.
each iteration further. And that like is a problem, so therefore it removes the projector. I don't believe that one. But the other one is that it's showing emotion.
Mm.
Like, you know, a human, relatable for the viewer emotion of, you know, I'm pissed that
Yeah.
they didn't do the drugs that I left here for them, or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
And just knock, I don't know, maybe that was the intention of that
Yeah.
location, but knocks the thing out in anger, you know, displays violence,
Right.
and they carry on. Because they have a conversation in that dome that's like, we're just going to carry on without the map.
Yeah.
You know, who cares? Let's go.
Right.
You know,
It's interesting.
like whatever they were there for didn't occur because they were there for like 2 seconds and left.
Yeah.
Like the beast coordinated this meeting,
Yeah. And then it didn't go according to his plan.
perhaps,
That's an interesting
because
concept.
they just left. You
Right.
know, I thought there was going to be more that happened in that scene as
I
well,
also
because
did
you know
too.
the build up of Aaron
Mhm.
having agency finally and going to do is
Yeah.
just to find Justin and that whole thing.
Yeah. Huh.
But that, like, once again speaks to something less eldritch,
Yeah.
something that expresses anger at the meddlings of lesser beings.
Mm-hmm.
It's curious.
It is. Very much so.
I feel like it seems like chasing these two people who are like anomalies in his little bubbles of consistency,
Mm-hmm.
as they continue to not be like shepherded. Like he keeps trying to
It's like herding
pin
cats.
them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just end up doing what they want, and you know, I guess that's not going to work for me. I'm going to need you to go to this trailer,
Yeah.
and I'm going to try again or whatever.
Right.
You know.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's because like a lot of this, and maybe this is true as well. This might be reading weirdly deep into it, but a lot of this is also like, you know, I talked about the relationship of the people who escape a cult and what their personalities are like, and they're going to be very childlike.
Mm-hmm.
The monster kind of feels that way too, where it's like these games it's playing are very petty,
Yes.
and the squabbles that it's causing by sending footage that, you know, to make them upset at each other and teach them lessons in the camp or whatever. It's like very petty, and
Yeah.
you know, using that level of manipulation to attempt to control people is pretty much hit or miss. Like,
Yeah,
It's not a strong form of manipulation.
Right. It's like a little girl with her Barbie dolls.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
But then gets mad when the doll doesn't.
Yeah, when it fucks off and goes wherever it wants.
Yeah.
And then it just has a tantrum, and that's the end of the movie. It's about a baby Cthulhu monster.
Maybe.
It really likes rope.
Yeah.
That's an interesting scene as well, the bike.
Yeah.
Because assumably she's just riding her bike directly into the border.
Splat. Maybe. Yeah. They're showing the table shot here, and a few cuts before that, they show them all sitting at their last supper together.
Yeah.
And they know what's going to happen, and they look forlorn. Like
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, they don't look like they're ready.
Yeah, well, they're not happy about it.
Right, but they've been happy the whole time. And if there's...
They're just lying to themselves, right?
Maybe, but like it's weird because like if you know what's going to happen on a daily basis, you know what's going to happen. And you're like, they're just still displaying like contentment with their life now, right? This shouldn't be that big of a deal to them.
Maybe. I don't know that that's something that you can easily like get a tough skin for.
If they've been doing it for, well, all right. Time is obviously weird here, but like if they've been doing it for 10 years, we don't know how long the cycle is as well.
That bordering thing might be not a great idea for the lenses because it's on the frame of this door as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. I just saw it too. So many. Yeah, I was really excited when the TV flicked on, and I was like, "Oh, what are we gonna see?" And then it was just
It's all the payoff stuff.
Yeah, but it's not a payoff to me. It feels like I was just like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, I don't really.
That was a weird scene. Also, we just saw him realize the monster under the water, but he doesn't have the bucket in his hand.
No. 3 moons, Joey. What does it mean?
It is interesting that the moons are different as well.
Yes. They're different distances away, assumedly. Right?
Yeah. And they also have different faces showing.
Mm-hmm.
Different topical features.
Poof.
Yeah, they're in like their own craters as well. They just like straight up exploded.
Yeah.
That's an interesting sequence there that she wrote that or drew that. The rock
swirl
being torn away by the swirl.
Yeah.
Because like that either really specifically implies premonition or being like seeing things or being sent images
Right.
in her head, or she's witnessed it once before
Yeah.
in person
Right.
because she retains her memories. Which means that like this particular portion of the process here where they offer themselves up isn't always the way it goes or hasn't been always the way that they all go. Like this is all of these people realizing that they can't do anything to get out of this loop. And they're just, they're sad about it, but they don't fight it anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's more painful to fight it. Because
Right.
they talked about that at some point, that it's the pain like the other guy, I think, the shack dude.
Yeah.
He said that it's like better to go on your own terms because the alternative is painful or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, he did.
And I think that implies being a part of the evisceration of the giant cataclysmic event. And this is like they've made some unconscious agreement with this creature.
Yeah. It's like, we'll give ourselves to you now.
Yeah.
If you spare us that pain.
That pain, yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I don't know. There's lots of weird relationships and continuity, errors with the decisions of certain, entities in this movie.
Oh, man.
Also, that scene right there, that shows the void specifically kind of coming toward them.
Yeah.
Stops being held true because they're pushing this massive vehicle down a road. It's not.
It's
not specifically chasing them. It's just.
Yeah.
That particular shot, I think, was not a good idea to include.
I agree.
Because it made me think they were being chased in this.
Yes.
The timing that all this occurs stops making me feel that way. And it's just
Right.
something that's slowly
I had a problem with that juxtaposition too.
eating everything.
This really threw me off. It made me care about this less.
Sure.
Their conversation, because I'm like, all I can think is like, why aren't they dead yet? Like
Right.
that thing should be on them by
Yeah.
now, you know. And
It was visually like
'cause they-
appeared to have like saw them.
yeah, and it'll come back to that shot. It does it a couple more times here before the very end. And,
During the big chase moment.
yeah, and
I like the birds though.
yes,
The birds don't know what's going on, and they're running in like genuine fear.
yeah,
So like animals at that level aren't aware of what's going on, but are a part of it,
mm-hmm.
and that's interesting.
Which I think further proves my theory about like the mountain lion.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah. Well, if it is a real mountain lion,
Yes.
what you're saying makes tons of sense.
Yeah. But yeah, see here it comes back to it again. It's like, no, I'm gonna chase you down.
I'm gonna get you.
Yeah. I thought for sure they were gonna splat at the end too. Because like all
you
the
see
birds
it, like,
do. Like,
harden or whatever.
yeah, all the birds fly into it, and there's like,
Yeah, but they're bound by the loop, and these guys aren't yet.
oh sure,
They have to die here to be bound by the loop. No one else
Yeah.
can cross these thresholds.
That makes sense.
I guess those birds did go on their own terms, because that would straight up kill a bird.
Yep. They knew.
Fly. Crows are smart, Joey. They build tools. Well, we watched the movie twice.
We did. We did. It's not a very long movie, apparently.
No.
Just under 2 hours, I guess.
Yeah. That's not too bad. There, there's another shot of this circle in a circle situation.
It's on their memorial to their mom.
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be a piece of like protection of some kind, because
Maybe
like,
it's this universe's version of the Elder Sign.
does the elder sign protect against the?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the pentagram with an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I didn't know if it was a protection or if it was just like a remnant of that being a part of the universe.
it's a protective symbol. Yeah, against eldritch beings.
They also like implicitly had a number of shots focused on the mountain.
Yeah. Yes, I noticed that as well.
Could be
One of the very first shots in the movie is an establishing shot of the mountain.
Yeah, it could also be something that is tied to the reference list for Mountains of Madness and that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
just a loose reference because the mountains don't come up in this at all in terms of plot importance,
Yeah.
other than it being a place you can get lost.
Yeah.
As just a geographical concept.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of curious things going on in this movie
Yeah.
that are interesting, luckily on their own feet, but some of them are just there.
Yeah.
Some of them are contradictory, and some of them are unconventional, in
Tell us-
perhaps a weird, bad way.
Tell us what you think at
Yeah.
home.
I'm curious.
Yeah. I want to know what other people have to say about this.
You know what we should do for this show? We should create like a...
What's that, Joey?
I'll tell you. We should maybe work it into like our intro expectation, because I'd be very fascinated, because we start off usually by saying we're about to watch a movie, go watch it please,
Yes.
and then you can be with us during our conversation. But if you want to take another step, I think and maybe we'll start saying this going forward as well, it'd be cool if you do that, and before you come back to us, you write your impression.
Yeah.
And then you reply to your own comment after you've heard us
Oh, sure. Yeah.
to see if things have changed.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to have two perspectives and see if we have any weird opinions about stuff, because I luckily get that in person with you.
Yes.
When I say a weird thing and you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
didn't think about that, or whatever.
Right.
Or from, looking at it from a certain lens that neither of us would have, that maybe somebody at home, sees something interesting or different.
Their names are actually Aaron and Justin, the actors.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess this is just... Well, maybe those are the names of different actors. They're just also named Aaron and Justin.
No.
We'll see the full breakdown. That'd be cool, though.
Well, and it just said director of photography Aaron Moorhead, who was the actor, and edited by Justin Benson, who
they
was
put
the
it.
same.
They put themselves in the movie.
Yeah,
That's great.
I'm gonna grab the case right now while we're recording.
Well, that's not far.
From Moorhead and Benson too. Yeah, it's
Moorhead and Benson.
that's their two last names. Aaron Moorhead, Justin Benson
Oh.
played Aaron and Justin, and they're the actors in the movie.
What the heck?
Wow.
Is that a nod to them being in a loop in the real world, and that they grow to become a movie maker, and they make make
Maybe.
this film, and then that's their loop?
I really want to see their other film that came before this that also supposedly has some nods to cosmic horror. This took a much larger step, as I've been led to believe by the internet. But their first movie, one of their first movies, is called Spring,
Okay,
and it's supposed to be in this vein as well.
that's cool.
I wouldn't mind viewing that. I don't even know. It could be for the cast. It could not be. It doesn't really.
Well, if
one way or the
if you
other.
do some research on it and it
Seems
definitively
like it would.
fits,
Yeah.
then we can do another blind one. Because
Sure.
we didn't say that either at the top. This is double blind. This is the
Yeah,
first
neither of
double
us have
blind.
ever seen it. Yep.
So that was cool. I feel like the conversation was no different than the previous vettings that we've done.
Not particularly, no.
But you usually have more insight about, like for our True Detective series that we
Right.
you had more insight on this stuff after listening to my impressions of things,
Yes, yeah.
having seen it for like the fourth time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, this was cool. I liked it a lot.
Oh, special thanks to Guillermo del Toro. That's cool. I didn't know he had a hand in this in any way.
Perhaps a liaison, someone that they've just
Yeah, could be.
written to and asked about stuff. Pen pal. But yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of seeing people's comments about the movie before listening to ours.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're interested in that kind of cool thing, I'm gonna try and remember to start saying that at the top of it's the Arcadian film. That was the name of the camp. I feel like there's something deeper here.
It also had the blurb about any likenesses are purely coincidental. All characters and events in this are fictitious.
Right.
Yeah.
Except that your two main people are themselves.
Right. Right.
I wonder if it's based on anything a little bit more directly, since they took the effort to just put themselves in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they both actually survived a UFO death cult.
Perhaps. And this is their weird telling of that event. How it could have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening. I think that's the end of our thoughts.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up. I don't have too much more.
I like this movie.
I do
I'm
too.
happy that I saw it, as opposed to some of the other ones that I've seen in my time. I liked the questions that it asked.
Yes.
I like the cool concepts that it brought up,
Yeah.
because not a whole lot of things have that take on things with time.
Right. Yeah, no, this definitely dabbles in some areas that people haven't really, at least to my knowledge, haven't touched on yet. So,
Especially in this setting.
yes.
Usually it's sci-fi or something that has
Right.
those sorts of things going on.
Yeah, this is just very grounded in modern day. So,
Well, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for listening. I've been Joey.
I've been Josh once or twice.
Yeah, and in a different time. Different place.
Different loop.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next episode. And don't stare too long.
Or do.
I don't know why we have that. I'm always going to edit these laughter moments here
Yeah.
and in, by the way.
Yeah.
It's just going to be us taking ourselves not too seriously. We're a big joke.